Hey, today I want to talk about why photographers charge so much, and more specifically, why photographers think they charge so much and why they're wrong. I was on Mumsnet and I was reading some wedding photography things. Someone was going, "Why does it cost so much for a wedding photographer? It costs thousands of pounds. It's ridiculous. It's just pictures." I'm sure you've heard this before. And some photographers jumped in and went, "Well, yes, you're paying for me to have these expensive cameras and lenses. You're paying for my time to meet with you, shoot for the day, and edit the images. And you're paying for the time I took to learn these skills." And I'm sure you've heard these before, and there is some merit to these points. These are valid points, but it is not the reason why we charge what we charge. That is not it. Let's break them down first, though. The equipment I have. Now, I'm shooting this YouTube video here on a 6K RAW video camera. It looks pretty nice. It's a good camera, but you'll notice that my most viewed videos on this channel were shot with a 5D Mark II with a shotgun mic strapped on top. The equipment you have is not the client's concern. It's not the consumer's concern. It's not your concern. You don't care what I shoot this on, and that's evident in the amount of views my videos get. Me having a more expensive camera and then for my workshops, for example, going, "I've got to charge more, I've got a more expensive camera," it doesn't change the content. It doesn't change what you're getting. It only changes things for me. Telling clients they're paying for the equipment is a real moot point. Now, there are exceptions to this, as with everything. If you're shooting a big ad campaign and for whatever reason you need a Cynar 4x5 camera with a digital Cynar back on it and the whole capture process to go with that, yes, they have to pay for that. That is an additional cost. That is above and beyond what's expected. In commercial world, we bill out our equipment because that is how we invoice. That is the done thing. In the more selling to individual kind of world or small businesses, they don't want to pay for your camera. That should be factored into your business. And of course, yes, they're paying for it. It's like when you get free postage. You're not getting free postage. You're paying more on the clothing you're ordering to facilitate the postage, okay? I understand all of that, but it's all about perception with the client. So we know the client doesn't care about the kit. What about your time? Now, I've had this when I started out where people were saying, "Oh, do you know what? How much would it cost to have you for doing this per hour?" And as soon as they ask me that, I think, well, I'm going to be working remarkably slow because if I'm getting paid by the hour, I'm going to get all my hours. I'm not going to get paid less because I am fast, efficient, and good at what I do. I'm not going to be paid a smaller sum of money because I can do in a day what someone else takes 2 days to do. It's not my fault I'm efficient, so I'm either going to work slow or lose money. So we're also not charging for our time. That's a given, you know. And of course, yes, we are charging for our time, but that's not what the value is placed upon. Now, the third point is it took me 10 years to learn this. Now, it did take me 10 years to learn how to be a professional photographer, a good photographer, and to do what I do today. It took me a decade. You could do it quicker than that. I'm not the sharpest tool in the box. It took me a minute to grasp things. Yes, once I grasp them, I'm very good at getting going with it, but you shouldn't have to pay for the 10 years of suffering everyone's eyes had to go through whilst I tried to make a good picture. That's not your fault. That's not your problem. So we're not charging for that. And of course, those expertise we gained are of value, but the client's not paying for the time. So with those three main points aside, what are they paying for? There's a few things people are paying for when they get a photographer. One is creative concept. Now, at the very high level, when you're working, it's very rare that you get paid for the actual concept, but you'll get paid for having a body of work which fits the brief of the concept. You'll be paid for being that one person in the world whose personal work looks exactly like the latest Nike advert, the latest McDonald's advert, whatever sort of genre you're in commercially. You'll get paid for that. With weddings, if you have a particular aesthetic, which is not like anybody else's work, and somebody wants that, they will pay the premium for that aesthetic. And this is where photography's changed from the 80s and 90s. Yes, there was still that high level, but generally speaking, if you could expose with flash a piece of film, you were up there because it is difficult to get it perfectly right every single time consistently with film. It's basically shooting with your eyes closed. Today, that doesn't swing. Anybody can get the right exposure, and if not, you can fix it in post. So what they're actually paying for is your creative concept and your ability to understand the brief and to use your skill set to produce that brief on their topic. Now, as well as this, they're paying you to be able to deliver on time and on budget. So sometimes, especially with ad campaigns, there'll be a print deadline when it goes to print. It must be done by this point. They will pay to make sure it's done by that point. They will not get a cheap photographer because they don't know and they can't be certain that at that price point they'll deliver on time. A lot of what we do is making sure we get the job done. Get it out on time, get it ready when they want it to be ready. Sometimes that means not having it perfect, having it 98% of the way there, 95% of the way there. We can't always be perfectionists. Sometimes we have to get a good enough campaign out to print, and that is a fact of life. And the ad agency are the same. They're like, yeah, it'd be great if we could do this, this and this to it, but we don't have time. We've hit the deadline. We've got a good product. Let's put it out to the world, and the campaign goes down well. So that ability to do that is also what people are paying for. And the other point to this is the stress. Once I found personally, once I went from charging, say, £500 a day, and I went up to charging £1,000 a day, or £1,200 as it were, I felt a bit more pressure at that point because of the money I was charging. Then when I went to charging £2,000 a day, I felt a tiny bit more pressure, not a great deal. Once my job started coming in at sort of 5-6 figure productions, I felt a lot of pressure. And I have to be able to handle that pressure and handle that stress so that I don't crumble in front of the client. Now, when I started out, I shot weddings. I cannot tell you the stress of getting the shot where the bride walks down the aisle, you've got your one photographer on one side getting the bride walking down, and you've got to nail that shot where the groom looks back at the bride. There's no retake. Doesn't matter if Uncle James steps out in front of you, you've got to get that shot. The money wasn't there, but the pressure was there because there's no recreating it. So being able to deal with that pressure is something that you're billing for. Now, I think there's other things we bill for as well as photographers, and one of them is our perspective on the world. So for me personally, the work I do, it's very childish, it's very graphic and vibrant, and I charge for my understanding of that world. I charge for being able to go, I understand what a child wants to see. I understand what a kid wants to see on their advert. I charge for that. I charge because I understand the aesthetic that I produce at a level which most people won't ever, because it is all I do. And it's not that most people couldn't, it's just that it's all I do. All I do all day is work on my style of work. That is it. And it's very niche. And all I do is go, right, bold, graphic, playful. That's it. That's me in photography. That's all I do. I don't have to worry about anything else. I don't need to worry about Rembrandt lighting or, whatever it may be. I do my little thing and I do it well. And that in itself brings a fee which is higher than most people might expect to make in a day's work. And yes, it's a very privileged position to be in, but also I've worked very hard for this, and also the risks you have to take to get to this point. You're kind of being rewarded for that, to go, do you know what? I'm letting everything else go by the wayside. I'm just doing this one little thing. And when they do want it, I'll be perfect for it. I will be the best fit for them. I will be the ideal person to shoot that campaign. And therefore, I will justify my fee. And that, to me personally, is why I think photographers charge so much. And that's not to say that all photographers can charge that much. You might not be that photographer yet. You might not be in that place yet, and you might not be able to command a high fee. You might not even be able to command a fee which you think is worth your time, because until you put the time in, like I said, 10 years for me of just like being pretty crap, until you've put that time in, it's very hard to command the fee. Anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I'd like to hear what you think we as photographers charge for. I'd like to hear what you think is important as a photographer to factor into how much you charge. If you've enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, do hit subscribe, hit the like button because it really helps out my channel. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.